Hey, welcome back to Say It Real, where fluency starts with real conversations. And today we are talking about one of the most frustrating feelings ever. When you actually know English, but the moment you try to speak, your brain just goes completely blank.
Yeah, that strange gap between understanding and speaking can feel huge. You listen to a video, read an article, and maybe even follow a full conversation. And then someone asks you a simple question in English, and suddenly your mind offers nothing helpful at all.
Exactly. And if that has happened to you, first of all, you are not broken. You are not bad at languages. You are not secretly incapable of becoming fluent. You're just dealing with a very normal stage of learning that almost everybody goes through.
And we want to unpack why that happens, what it feels like, and how people can move through it without making the process heavier than it needs to be.
Also, quick little reminder before we jump in, if you enjoy learning English through real conversations like this, subscribe to Say It Real. Give this episode a like and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.
That helps the channel, of course, but more importantly, it keeps you connected to regular listening practice, and that consistency matters more than people think.
Honestly, so let me start with a confession. I used to think fluency meant speaking fast. Like if somebody spoke quickly, confidently, with zero pauses, I was like, wow, that person is fluent. And if someone stopped to think, I assumed they were struggling.
Same. I had that image too. Fluent people were supposed to sound smooth all the time, almost effortless. Like they woke up one morning and their sentences just arrived fully assembled.
Meanwhile, real life was me opening my mouth and producing something like, yesterday I had gone, actually. It was chaos, complete chaos.
And the funny thing is, that messy stage is often where real progress starts. Not when everything is neat in your notebook, but when your thoughts are trying to become live language in real time.
So why does that freeze happen? Why can someone understand so much and still struggle to speak?
A big reason is that understanding and producing language are related, but they're not the same skill. Listening is recognition. Speaking is retrieval plus decision making plus timing plus confidence, all happening at once.
Yes, it's like the difference between recognizing a song and performing it on stage. You may know the melody the second you hear it, but that doesn't mean you can instantly sing it, control your breathing, remember every line, and stay calm in front of people.
That comparison is so good because a lot of learners judge themselves unfairly. They think, but I understood that podcast, so why can't I speak like that? Well, because passive knowledge and active use are different muscles.
And that's actually good news, because it means the problem is not that you know nothing. It means you need the kind of practice that turns stored language into usable language.
Right. Sometimes the words are in there. They're just not easy to access yet. They're sitting in your mind like books in a huge library with no clear system. You know the book exists, but in the moment you need it, you can't find the shelf.
Ugh, yes, and the pressure makes it worse because the moment you think, come on, say it, say it, say it, your brain responds, absolutely not.
Pressure changes everything. When people are relaxed, they often speak better. When they feel watched, tested, or judged, even basic sentences can suddenly feel difficult.
I remember once I had a perfectly simple sentence in my head. I just wanted to ask for help at a store. That was it. Simple, normal, human. But I started thinking about grammar, pronunciation, whether I sounded strange, whether the other person would get impatient.
And by the time you actually spoke, the sentence had become 10 times harder than it needed to be.
Exactly. What came out was not my original sentence. What came out was like a damaged version that had passed through 5 layers of panic.
That is such a real description. It stops being communication and becomes this internal emergency meeting where every part of your brain is arguing.
One department is checking vocabulary, one is screaming about verb tenses, one is asking if your accent sounds weird, and one is just hiding under the table.
And none of them are helping you order coffee.
So, one of the first mindset shifts that really matters is this. Speaking is not a performance of perfection. It is a practice of connection.
I love that. Because when learners focus only on correctness, they often become stiff. But when they focus on meaning, the language starts to breathe a little more.
Yes, and honestly, some of the biggest breakthroughs happen when people stop trying to sound impressive and start trying to be clear.
Clear beats complicated almost every time. A simple sentence you can actually use is much more powerful than an advanced sentence you freeze in the middle of.
This is why I always tell people, do not wait until you know enough English before speaking. That moment does not arrive the way you think it will. Confidence usually comes after use, not before it.
That can be hard to accept, though, because it feels more comfortable to prepare forever, to study quietly, to collect more words, more phrases, more grammar rules, and keep telling yourself you will speak later.
Yeah, later is seductive. Later feels safe. Later feels smart. Later feels like a plan. But sometimes later is just fear wearing a very organized outfit.
Wow, that is painfully accurate.
And look, studying matters, listening matters, reading matters, building vocabulary matters. We're not against any of that. But if your goal is to speak, then speaking cannot be the thing you avoid until the end.
Exactly. Language learning works best when input and output support each other. Listening gives you models, reading expands your vocabulary, speaking forces retrieval. Writing slows your thinking down. Each one strengthens the others.
Let's talk about that first awkward stage of speaking, because I think people often underestimate how emotionally intense it can be.
It's not only a language problem, it can feel personal. Because when you can't express yourself, it can seem like your personality disappears. You become less funny, less precise, less spontaneous than you are in your own language.
That part hurts. You know you're a full person. You know you have stories, opinions, jokes, warmth, weird little observations. But in English, at first, you may sound much flatter than you really are.
And that can make people pull back. Not because they have nothing to say, but because saying it costs too much effort.
I think that is why small wins matter so much. Not dramatic movie-style breakthroughs. Tiny, real moments like answering a question without translating first, or making someone laugh, or telling a short story and realizing you stayed calm the whole time.
Yes, those moments are gold. They seem small from the outside, but inside they change your relationship with the language.
I remember the first time I had a conversation and noticed I was actually listening instead of just preparing my next sentence in panic. That felt huge.
That is a major shift, because in early conversations, many learners are only half present. The other half is busy building emergency sentences in the background.
Which is exhausting.
Very exhausting, but eventually, with enough exposure and practice, your brain starts trusting itself a bit more. You don't need to monitor every word. You begin to ride the conversation instead of wrestling it.
And one thing that helps a lot is repetition in real contexts. Not repeating random lists, but hearing and using useful patterns again and again until they become familiar.
Right. Things like, that makes sense. I'm not sure yet. What do you mean by that? Can you say that again? I used to think the reason is these chunks are incredibly helpful because they let you speak before you can build everything from zero.
That is an important point. Fluent speech is not always created word by word. A lot of it comes from ready-made patterns your brain can pull quickly.
Basically, your mouth loves shortcuts.
Yes, and good shortcuts. Natural ones, useful ones. The more of those chunks you collect through listening and practice, the less pressure you feel to invent every sentence from scratch.
That also explains why some learners understand grammar but still hesitate a lot. Grammar knowledge helps, but it doesn't automatically create speed.
Exactly. You can know the rule and still not use it smoothly in conversation. Real-time speaking needs familiarity, rhythm, and recall under pressure.
So what are some ways people can train that without making it boring?
One of my favorites is speaking out loud when you're alone. It sounds simple, maybe even silly, but it's powerful. Describe your day. Explain what you're doing. React to a video. Tell an imaginary friend about something that annoyed you.
I love that because it removes social pressure but still gives your brain retrieval practice. You're turning passive knowledge into active language in a low-stress way.
Exactly. You can stand in your room and say, okay, today was weird. I woke up late, spilled water on my desk, missed my bus, and then somehow still arrived early. That kind of thing builds flow.
Also, daily life gives you endless material. Complaints alone can probably make you fluent.
Honestly, yes. Human beings are extremely creative when something inconvenient happens.
Another helpful method is shadowing, but in a very relaxed way, not like a punishment exercise, more like borrowing rhythm from natural speech.
So, listening to a short clip, pausing, and repeating it with the same tone, same pace, same feeling?
Exactly. You're not only learning words, you're learning melody. English has its own music, and shadowing helps your mouth get used to that music.
What kind of material works well for that?
Short clips with natural dialogue. Podcasts, interviews, little scenes from shows, even YouTube videos where the speaker sounds clear and expressive. I would not start with something too fast or too dramatic. You want understandable energy, not chaos.
That makes sense. Build control first, then challenge yourself later.
Yes, and I think learners sometimes choose material that is too hard because they believe harder means better. But if you cannot catch the rhythm, repeat the sentence, or enjoy the process, it is probably not the best material for this stage.
Enjoyment matters more than people admit. If you hate the material, you will not stay with it long enough for it to shape your speech.
Completely. If you love cooking videos, use cooking videos. If you love football interviews, use those. If you love travel vlogs, perfect. Interest creates attention, and attention helps memory.
Another big piece is listening to different kinds of English, not only one voice, one speed, one accent, because in real life, English is not a single neat sound.
Yes, and that can be uncomfortable at first. You get used to one speaker and feel confident, then someone else talks, and suddenly everything feels different again.
I used to take that personally. I would think, great, so I actually understand nothing. Huh, but really, I just had limited exposure.
Exactly. Difficulty does not always mean failure. Sometimes it simply means you're meeting a new version of the language.
That is such a healthier way to see it. Instead of, I'm bad at English, it becomes, I'm still learning how this speaker sounds, how this rhythm works, how these expressions are used.
Yes, and that shift protects your motivation because motivation drops fast when every hard moment becomes a negative story about yourself.
Let's stay there for a second, because self-talk during language learning is huge.
Massive. People say things to themselves they would never say to a friend. I sound stupid. I'll never be fluent. I'm too old. Everyone is better than me. That kind of inner voice drains energy fast.
And it's usually not even true. It's just frustration speaking loudly.
Better self-talk doesn't mean fake positivity. It just means accuracy. Instead of I can't speak English, maybe it's I need more speaking practice. Instead of I'm terrible at listening, maybe it's fast speech is still hard for me.
Yes, specific language helps. Honest, specific, non-dramatic language. That's useful. It shows you what to work on without turning everything into an identity crisis.
Language learning has enough drama already. We don't need to add extra.
Exactly.
Curious, what about mistakes? Because everybody says don't be afraid of mistakes, and that sounds nice, but in the moment, mistakes can feel awful.
True, especially when the mistake is public, or funny in a way you didn't intend, or when you realize 2 seconds too late that what you said was not what you meant at all.
Ah, yes, those beautiful moments of accidental nonsense.
We've all had them. But here's what matters. Memorable mistakes are often very effective teachers. Embarrassing, yes. Useful, also yes.
Your brain really does remember pain.
It remembers emotion, and strong emotion can make the correct version stick. That doesn't mean we want people to suffer, of course. It just means a mistake is not wasted when you notice it and keep going.
Also, some mistakes matter less than learners think. People often imagine that one wrong preposition has destroyed the whole conversation.
It usually has not.
No, if the meaning is clear, communication can still work beautifully. Accuracy matters, yes, but communication is bigger than one imperfect sentence.
That is why conversation partners matter too. A supportive person can make speaking feel possible. A judgmental person can make even simple sentences feel heavy.
This is so real. The right environment changes everything. If you have even one person who listens patiently, encourages you, and does not jump on every tiny error, hold on to that person.
Or build that kind of environment for yourself through language exchanges, speaking groups, tutors, or friends who understand what you're trying to do.
And when you do speak with someone, use repair phrases. People forget this. You do not need perfect speech. You need tools for when speech gets messy. Things like, let me say that again. I'm trying to explain. What I mean is, I forgot the word, but it's like,
Those phrases are lifesavers. They keep the conversation moving instead of making you stop completely.
and using them actually sounds natural. Native speakers do this too. Real conversation is full of rephrasing, correcting, clarifying, pausing, changing direction. It is not a polished speech all the time.
That is such an important reminder. Learners sometimes compare their messy live speech to the polished final result of a podcast, movie, or edited video. That is not a fair comparison.
Exactly. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's finished episode.
So let's talk about plateaus because they're another thing that makes people feel stuck.
Plateaus are rough because you're still working, but the progress becomes harder to notice. In the beginning, improvement can feel dramatic. Later, it becomes more subtle.
Right. Early on, learning 20 new words feels exciting. Later, the work is often about nuance, tone, flexibility, faster recall, more natural phrasing, better listening in noisier situations.
Which are real improvements, even if they're less visible. Sometimes your progress is not, now I can speak English. Sometimes it's, now I can disagree politely, or now I can tell a story with more detail, or now I can follow group conversations better.
That is why it helps to notice different forms of growth, not just the big, dramatic ones.
I actually love keeping tiny evidence of progress, not in a super intense way, just little notes. A phrase I used naturally, a conversation that felt easier, a moment where I understood something instantly.
That is smart because memory is biased. We remember the awkward moments vividly and forget the quiet wins.
So true. My brain will store one embarrassing sentence for 6 months, but forget an entire successful conversation by dinner time.
Same.
Another thing that helps during a plateau is changing the kind of challenge. If all your practice looks the same, your brain adapts and gets too comfortable.
So, what kind of changes are we talking about?
Maybe you move from short answers to longer storytelling, or from listening with subtitles to listening without them, or from private speaking practice to real conversation, or from familiar topics to more complex ones like opinions, decisions, memories, plans.
That makes sense. Growth often needs a new demand, not just more of the exact same routine.
Yes, but the new challenge should still be possible. Hard enough to wake you up, not so hard that you shut down.
Basically, uncomfortable, but not emotionally catastrophic.
Perfectly said.
Let's talk about thinking in English because people ask about that all the time. Is that an important goal?
I think it can be helpful, but people misunderstand it. Thinking in English does not mean forcing yourself to be mentally perfect all day. It means building more direct links between ideas in English without translating every tiny thing.
Yes, you can practice that gently. Describe what you see, make little plans in English, react to your day in English. I need to reply to that message. This line is too long. Why is this elevator so slow?
The elevator complaints return.
They are universal and useful.
The nice thing about that habit is that it makes English part of ordinary life, not a school subject, not a test, just a working language in small moments.
And that shift is powerful. When English becomes something you use, not only something you study, fluency starts becoming more realistic.
There is also a deeper emotional shift there. At first, English may feel like foreign territory. Later, it starts to feel like a place you can actually live in for a while.
Wow, I love that image. Not just visiting the language, living in it.
Even briefly, even imperfectly, just long enough for it to feel less strange.
What about pronunciation? Because that is another area where people freeze. They worry so much about sounding wrong that they stop speaking naturally.
Pronunciation matters, but not in the way fear tells you it does. The goal is usually not to erase every trace of your background. The goal is to be understandable, comfortable, and expressive.
Thank you, because some learners think they need a perfect accent before they deserve to speak confidently, and that belief keeps them quiet for way too long.
Exactly. Work on clarity, work on sounds that affect meaning, work on stress and rhythm. Those things help a lot, but do not make sounding native the condition for participation.
You are allowed to sound like yourself in English.
That sentence needs to be framed and put on a wall somewhere.
Also, pronunciation often improves through listening, plus imitation, plus repetition over time, not only through isolated correction. The more natural speech you absorb, the more your own speech starts adjusting.
Yes, and recording yourself can help too, even if it feels awkward. You notice things you can't hear in the moment. You also get proof that you sound better over time than you think.
The first time I recorded myself speaking English, I wanted to disappear into another dimension.
That is such a universal experience.
I was like, who is that? Why is she breathing like she just ran up a mountain? Why is every sentence ending in confusion?
But then later, if you keep recording once in a while, you can actually hear progress.
And that's motivating. Progress is easier to trust when you can hear it.
So, we should talk about confidence too, because people chase it in a way that sometimes makes them miserable.
Yeah, confidence is often treated like a feeling you must have before you act. But in language learning, confidence is usually built through repeated survival. You speak, it goes okay, you speak again, it goes a little better, and slowly your nervous system stops treating English like danger.
Repeated survival. That is such a good phrase.
So if your current routine is tiny, that is okay. Tiny can work. 10 focused minutes can work. One short voice note can work. A small conversation can work.
Yes, the key is making practice repeatable. Sustainable beats intense. A routine you can actually continue is worth much more than a dramatic plan you abandon in 4 days.
4 very ambitious days.
Followed by guilt, of course.
Naturally.
Before we move into our word tour, I want to bring this back to something simple. If you freeze in English, it does not mean you are failing. It usually means your brain is still building speed, trust, and access.
And those things are trainable. Not instantly, not magically, but absolutely trainable.
So, speak sooner than you feel ready. Keep sentences simple when you need to. Use repair phrases. Practice out loud. Notice tiny progress. Be kinder to yourself. Those habits change more than endless self-criticism ever will.
And breathe. Honestly, breathe. Half the time, people are not only searching for words, they are holding tension in their whole body.
That is true. A calmer body often leads to a clearer sentence.
Okay, let's slow things down and do our word tour, because this is one of my favorite parts of the episode.
Same here. This is where we revisit some useful words and phrases from today in a calm, practical way, so you can notice them, remember them, and hopefully start using them naturally.
First phrase, go blank. If your mind goes blank, you suddenly cannot think of what to say. Example, I knew the answer, but when the teacher asked me, my mind went blank.
That phrase is super common, and it's perfect for this topic. You can also say, I always go blank in interviews, or I went blank when he asked me a question in English.
Next one, freeze. Very similar idea. If you freeze, you stop and cannot react easily, often because of fear or pressure. Example, I freeze when I have to introduce myself in English.
And notice this does not only apply to language. People freeze in exams, on stage, in stressful situations. It's a very human word.
Third phrase, messy stage. We use this to describe the part of learning where things aren't smooth yet, but real progress is happening. Example, I'm still in the messy stage, but I'm speaking more than before.
I love that phrase because it feels honest and kind at the same time. Not perfect, not hopeless, just messy, which is often exactly what growth looks like.
Next, retrieve or retrieval. In language learning, retrieval means pulling words or phrases out of your memory when you need them. Example, I understand the word when I hear it, but retrieval is still slow.
That's a really helpful concept because it explains why understanding is not the same as speaking. You may already know the language, but retrieval under pressure is still developing.
Next phrase, ready-made pattern. This means a useful chunk of language you can use quickly without building the whole sentence from zero. Example, can you say that again? Is a ready-made pattern.
And learning a few ready-made patterns can make conversations feel much easier because they give you instant tools.
Another good one, plateau. A plateau is a period where you feel like your progress has stopped, even though you're still working. Example, I hit a plateau after a few months, so I changed my routine.
That word comes up a lot in learning, fitness, and skill building. It is frustrating, yes, but also normal.
Next phrase, step out of your comfort zone. This means doing something that feels a little challenging or unfamiliar. Example, joining a speaking group helped me step out of my comfort zone.
And I like this phrase because it suggests growth without sounding dramatic. You do not have to jump off a cliff. Sometimes you just need one small step outside what feels easy.
Next, rephrase. To rephrase means to say something again in a different way. Example, I couldn't explain it clearly, so I rephrased my idea.
That is a great real conversation skill. Rephrasing keeps you moving instead of giving up when the first version of your sentence doesn't work.
Another useful phrase, stay in it. We use this in the sense of remaining in the conversation, even when it feels uncomfortable. Example, I wanted to give up, but I stayed in it and finished the conversation.
That one feels emotionally strong to me. Stay in it. Stay present. Stay with the discomfort a little longer.
Last one for today, small win. A small win is a little success that still matters. Example, Understanding that joke was a small win, but it made me feel more confident.
And please do not underestimate small wins. They build momentum. They change how you see yourself. They matter a lot.
So, those were today's word tour phrases. Go blank, freeze, messy stage, retrieval, ready-made pattern, plateau, step out of your comfort zone, rephrase, stay in it, and small win.
Try choosing just 2 or 3 of those and making your own examples out loud. That kind of personal use helps the language stick much better than only hearing it once.
And before we go, here's a takeaway I want you to leave with. Fluency is not the moment fear disappears. It's the skill of continuing even when fear shows up.
Beautifully said. You do not need a perfect mind, perfect accent, perfect grammar, or perfect confidence to start sounding more natural. You need practice that is honest, consistent, and alive.
So the next time you freeze, don't turn it into a verdict about your future. Treat it like information. Slow down. Use a simple sentence. Ask a question. Rephrase. Keep going.
You are not starting from zero every time. Even when it feels messy, your brain is learning, adapting, and building.
And if this conversation helped you feel a little less alone in your English journey, subscribe to Say It Real. Give us a like and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for spending this time with us. Keep listening, keep speaking, keep collecting those small wins, and we'll meet you again soon for another real conversation.
Bye for now, and remember, fluency starts with real conversations.
See you in the next one.